Good evening. We're going to go ahead and start. I'd like to ask Sam Theodora, if you wouldn't mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Can we go ahead and do the verification of quorum?
Yes, Director Doherty,
Here.
Director Van Vliet,
Here.
Director Cook,
Here.
President Griffiths. 4 present, quorum met.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to a time of member comments. This is a time where members, if you haven't filled out the form, this is the only time where it's an opportunity to speak. So you have 3 minutes to speak. Are there any member comments?
Yes, our first is Ann Norris.
Ann, you can come right up here.
Good evening. My name is Ann Norris. I live at 3846 Lot 030. I sent an email to all the directors over the weekend, and I would like to read it so that the members that are here tonight can hear it. I'm writing this email in regards to the fulfillment of the director's vacancy caused by the resignation of Brian Bach. Brian cited his resignation due to time constraints and life balance. I find that fulfillment of a director's position not only requires a huge time commitment, knowledge of how our community functions, understanding of the past history of our community, current issues at hand, but also logic and passion. The person that you tonight appoint to fill the vacancy should be someone, in my humble opinion, that has recent board experience to seamlessly carry on the actions of the current board. My reasoning concerns the learning curve associated with being an effective board member. A new board member, when appointed, would need to go through the same training that all of you went through to get up to speed. This will require many hours of our POA staff to do the training and take away from their already busy workloads. A new director needs to learn who to deal with, the PO staff, understand our financials and budgeting process, and how the various funds work, the ability to listen to the community, and the ability to work with the general manager, Eric Kazakov. And by the time someone gets up to speed, the term of this current vacancy will be almost up. I fully support Joe Kamation to fulfill this vacancy. As Renee stated at the May General Board meeting, Joe not only restored calmness in the community, but offered logic with decisions and showed his passion for the community, and it was a pleasure to work with. I look at the projects that have been completed and funded during Joe's term in office. Pavement project, irrigation project, golf course irrigation that will save thousands of dollars annually, improvements at Happy Camp, a restroom at Indian Beach, vacation park development with community support to actually fund it. Upcoming projects at Joe's input are sorely needed, include solar panels and placement of the Canyon Lake medium landscaping and electrical portion, which we all know he was an electrical contractor, can add a lot of good advice on that. Joe, as you know, is not a rubber stamp for projects. He researches and asks several questions before he gives his approval. Reviewing Joe's recent board experience and his ability to work as a team, his ability to work with our general manager and POA staff, his ability to listen and discuss individual community concerns, his time commitment and involvement, in my mind, Joe is the only choice for the fulfillment of the vacancy with little, if any, interruption to current board activities. Thank you.
You timed that so well. There were 7 seconds left. So well done. And also thank you for sending us that email too. I appreciate that. Any additional? Yes.
Yes, we have a list. So our next is Paul Hawker.
And hello, board and staff. Thank you for this evening. My name is Paula Hawker. I'm in 3804052. Is this too loud? It's okay? It's okay? Good. I also would like to talk tonight about Joe Kamasian. I believe the board is being presented with a unique opportunity tonight. To kind of rephrase, he'll be ready to represent from day one. I think that's important. And I think that's why the board is here to fill that empty seat, because it needs to be filled with someone with the capabilities to carry on from Brian Bach. He'll have no need to be brought up to speed by POA staff, legal team. It'll save hundreds of hours from committees and other board members to bring him up to speed. An important thing to me is he has already been elected by our community via our voting process. He served with distinction already on the board as a position of president prior to stepping away due to some health issues, which he did with great honor and commitment to the community. When he found that it wasn't okay for him to carry on, he stepped away and left it up to the rest of the board. Now he's healthy again. It would be an absolutely no-brainer in my mind for him to engage as a replacement for Brian Bach. I feel so strongly that Joe is the most beneficial to the community that I am requesting to withdraw my own application to run for the board and ask everyone that was considering voting for me to transfer that vote to Joe. Joe's unique experience and capabilities make him the best choice to move our community in a continually forward position. I think we ought to give Joe his job back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Is there another?
Sam Theodora.
I'm here to encourage you to place Joe Kamasian in the vacant seat on the board. I have known Joe for almost 20 years and have been on a few select groups in Canyon Lake. One of them was a master plan committee about, 12, 13 years ago, to not only beautify, but to add to the functionality of the golf course. Joe's contribution to it was to try to get reclaimed water to water holes 3, 4, 5, and 6. The slope of those holes emptied out into the lake, and so they had to be watered with regular water, and the cost was almost as much as the other 15 holes. And I remember Joe going out there with Ben Wick, who is a resident of Canyon Lake and president of the Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District, many times on his own to try to figure out how to get reclaimed water. And I asked Joe about it. I said, Joe, you know, there's a lot of other things we could be talking about, but he said, you know, this is the one thing that has a dual functionality. It not only waters the course, but it's going to save the people thousands of dollars. It's something that wasn't even on my mind when I was on the committee. All I was thinking about was the golf course. And that tells you something about the individual. He thinks beyond what most people are thinking about, and I appreciate that too. I had the pleasure of being the secretary on the Canyon Lake Men's Golf Club when Joe was the president. And let me tell you that many times as the president, you are faced with situations where people are brought up to the board because of various infractions, let's call them. The board usually calls on the president to make a decision. And as the secretary, I can tell you that in every situation where a person came before the board, in this situation, Joe handled it in such a way that there were two winners, both the individual who came in and the board itself. He had that knack that he could see something, come up with a solution that everybody would agree to, and it was great. And I know that because I was writing it down. I was the secretary, and I remember these things. And
Sorry, Sam, 3 minutes.
I'll just, in closing, let me tell you one thing. You guys probably know me very well. I don't usually say this about a person, but Joe is one of the few people that I know that I can say that the longer I know Joe, the more I like him.
Thank
Let's
you,
get him on the
Sam.
board.
Thank you, Sam, for your comments. Is there another?
Yes, our next is Travis Montgomery.
Travis Montgomery, 3863010. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you for your service on the board. As a former POA board member, treasurer, and president, I know the value of experienced board members, those that are responsible for running this $18 million corporation. At the present time, we have 2 board members with 1 year and a little less than 4 months experience, and 2 board members with a little less than 4 months experience, for a combined total of about 36 months of experience in operating this $18 million corporation. With the current vacancy on the board, you have the opportunity to enhance that experience. You have a win-win situation before you. A group of good, interested members willing to serve, and some that have previous board experience. In particular, you have one applicant with the most immediate experience, Joe Kamation, who served the 2 previous board terms and as president during the last term. He's been involved in all the major projects and decisions made during the previous 27 months, with the exception of those last 3 months. Some of those included the roadway construction project, paving over 1,300,000 square feet of roadway on 60 different segments of roadway. The vacation park and pump track, a $2.2 million project that was voted on and approved by the members of this community. And that project is coming in under budget, and it's going to open later this month. The golf course irrigation project was a modernization of an irrigation system that had seen its day, and it resulted in water savings of 14.6% per year, reducing the annual maintenance costs, and estimated savings of $105,000 per year just in water cost alone. Soon we'll see the new shade structures to be installed later this year at the lodge, the equestrian center, and the golf course, resulting in locked-in energy costs for the next 25 years, saving the POA nearly $3 million and at no cost to the POA. This list of projects and accomplishments shows how Joe can and does serve the entire community. Joe is a candidate who can hit the road running. His learning curve is limited to what has happened in the past 3+ months. With his 24 months of board experience, he individually has 2/3 of the combined experience of the entire board. And he's
Thank you,
willing to put that
Travis.
experience.
Thank you, Travis.
All right. I urge you to appoint Joe Kamation and take advantage of the unique opportunity that you have to bring proven leadership to the board for the remainder of this term, providing experience and continuity.
Thank you, Travis.
Valerie Montgomery.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. We all know there's an opening on the POA board to fill the remaining term of 8.5 months. That hardly gives someone without board experience the opportunity to be a contributing member of the board in such a short period of time. I've seen the packets you receive on Fridays. It's a daunting task to absorb the contents and be prepared for the POA meeting the following week. One of the applicants has the background and experience and can be a contributing member to the board on day one. That is Joe Kamation. I have personal experience with his abilities when he makes a commitment. During my time working with Joe in the Green Committee, he always displayed genuine interest in any issues that came before us. His valued input was always welcome. I encourage you to take advantage of his experience and appoint Joe Kamation to fill the vacancy on the POA board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valerie.
Joe Washley.
Joe Washley, 3716-433. Try not to repeat some of the things that have been said because they were things that I was going to say. But I've known Joe for about 20 years, and Joe is a volunteer. He's helped while he wasn't on the Tuesday work group, he would volunteer. We'd call him whenever we needed some electrical work done, and he'd gladly come down, do the work, string, pull wire, etc. So whenever, and we used him, for instance, on that beautiful clock by the putting green that we purchased. So you had to get electricity to it. Joe took care of it. So he is a volunteer. Everybody keeps saying about the board, getting people on the board, the time it takes to get up to speed. And it's so true. Everybody we talk to says that. At the May meeting, which was Joe's last meeting, the 4 directors, Jim, Brian, Renee, Tim, each of you spoke about Joe and talked about what a great job he did, how he was so easy to work with, and were very complimentary. With the speed thing and that, unless you guys were giving us a lot of BS on this stuff, it's a no-brainer. You should be welcoming Joe with open arms to come on. So I ask you to please vote for Joe to be your member for 8.5 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Jim Barringham.
Jim Barringham, 3868-637. As you see, I'm well prepared. Really, I'm not. Everything that I just heard is absolutely, positively true. I served 2 years with Joe on the board. Always found him to be honest, insightful, frugal, and when we made him our board president, he did an excellent job. As you've heard, I think there's 9 more board meetings, and it would make no sense at this point in time to try to bring anybody that's not already had some board experience. There'll be an election in about, 9, 10 months. Anybody that would like to run at that time, I think that would make sense. But I would definitely positively vote to get Joe on the board where he belongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next.
Russ Muscarella.
Thank you for having me. I shoot from the hip a little bit since I wasn't sure I could make it. So I don't have all that stuff written down, but I can certainly testify that Joe Commission is the man for the job based on his past experiences, running his own business, living here for 30 years. Every conversation I've had with Joe has been about the people in Canyon Lake. I think he lives, breathes, and loves Canyon Lake and the people. It's very important to me as living here in tract number 3846 238. I just want to say that all my experience with Joe has been so positive in the conversations. The guy's always looking ahead and very, very much interested in what's going on, not only presently, but in the future. I know that Joe has been involved in a lot of the other clubs that we have here and has done an excellent job and made a major commitment to each. I don't know anyone that has anything negative to say about Joe because I asked around and wanted to make sure he was the man for the job, and there's absolutely no question. There's no way you could possibly make a mistake bringing Joe back on the POA board and securing the director's position that's available. And I also haven't heard anything tonight that I didn't agree with. So without duplicating a lot of the information, I think we're well aware of who the man is for the job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
John Jacobson, and then we'll have two more.
John Jacobson, 3720198, and I'm here to endorse, or hopefully you guys endorsed Joe Commission to be the next director. I think everything that everybody has said is kind of what I would have said, that we have a short amount of time. He has a lot of wisdom, knowledge, and he'd be brought up to speed quickly and be able to help this board in the rest of this time to be able to fulfill whatever need to be done. And thank you, that's it.
Thank you, John.
Jack Wamsley.
That it? Okay. Well, it's obvious that Joe's heavily supported and rightfully so. Joe and I have been friends for many, many years, and I know that the work he's done has been very selfish because he wants to make sure that our community is the best in this entire California, and he's done that. One of the things, and you are new board members basically, is the time that it takes to learn about our corporation. We have an enormous corporation functioning in all kinds of parks. We've got equestrian centers, and you know. It takes 6 months for you to just learn where the front door is. And the problem that you have is you need a man that has that background. Joe Commission's your man. There's no doubt about that. The other thing is that it saves a lot of work for Eric, our general manager. Whenever a new board comes on and they don't know anything, half of the time, Eric's got to teach him. He's got to go over it, everything. With Joe, he doesn't need to do that. Joe comes, you appoint him today, he goes to work tomorrow, and he's right at the top of his game. And that's the important thing, and that's what most of the people have said tonight, that Joe has the experience. And it's going to help all of you board members come up with a better job. So I really hope that you will move Joe into that position. And I think without a doubt, it'll be an asset to our corporation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Our last is Alyssa Kaspris.
Good evening. I come bearing no papers, so it'll be less than 3 minutes. I agree with every single sentence and every single thing that everybody said about Joe. I worked closely with Joe on the appeals committee, and I think he was an amazing board of director president. However, as the chief people officer at Metrolink, responsible for EEO and diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'd like you to consider Jeannie Odell as a female on the board, because we don't have a balance of power, and I don't want to see gender inequity. So while I do agree with everything everybody said about Joe, I'm looking at it from a gender perspective as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. No more comments? All right. We're going to go ahead and move ahead with our first order of business. It's a 28-day reading. And Amanda Moore is coming up. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Moore is our new Senior Member Services Manager.
No, you're good. Thank you, everybody. So today we're proposing just one rule revision for GC 2.9, no malicious mischief. And basically the background to this rule is the community is seeing a big increase in vandalism, unfortunately. And staff, the board, I think, feel that any individual involved in these acts should be held accountable. We feel that if you are afforded an opportunity to leave the scene, stop the activity, disassociate yourself with the responsible parties, if you don't do those things, then you are responsible as well for the damages and the associated costs. The current rule reads that malicious mischief, vandalism, and graffiti, every person who defaces with paint or any other material, damages or destroys or impairs any CLPOA property is in violation of this rule. The prime member will be assessed for all damages and the cost of cleanup, including labor and materials. And we are proposing that the board revise this rule to read that every person who defaces with paint or any other material, any CLPOA property, or damages any CLPOA property, or destroys or impairs any CLPOA property, or aids and abets any of the foregoing, including being present during the event and encouraging its commission, is in violation of this rule. In addition to the fine set forth below, cost of damages, cleanup, labor, and materials incurred by CLPOA will be billed to the prime member of the residence from which the violator originated or is a guest or invitee of, or is an associate or sub-associate as to. If multiple people are found to be in fault for the same incident, the cost of damages, cleanup, labor, and materials incurred by POA will be split equally among the responsible prime members. However, to deter vandalism, a $1,000 fine will be imposed on each responsible prime member. We are recommending that the board of directors approve the 28-day reading to revise rule GC 2.9 as modified.
Thank you, Amanda. And one of the things I'm going to add, since I did see a note about this, or not about this specifically, is why is a prime member responsible and where is it? So I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to Rule GR 3.2, and thank you, Harmony, for getting this for me. But prime membership, one of any number of co-owners of record of the lot shall be prime members. Co-owners shall designate the prime member in a written document signed by the co-owners and provided to the CLPOA. Absent such a designation, the prime member shall be deemed to be the first person named and the recorded transferring instrument. The prime member is responsible for all the actions of his, her, family guests, lessees, and tenants. So every single rule in there, if it doesn't say the prime member is responsible in the actual rule, though we do have it in this, that is the overarching of all rules. So I just wanted to state it here since there may have been, or there was some confusion out there in Facebook land. So do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
I'd also like to discuss.
Discussions?
So yeah, I'd like to start off. I like this rule. I think this new rule is effective in addressing the vandalism and specifically the type of activity and events that we saw happen at Roadrunner Park earlier this year. I think it puts more teeth in the rules by increasing the fine. And I hope it'll discourage or prevent future occurrences of to POA property. Now, that said, we've also experienced heightened incidences of mischief in the community. You know, we've had someone this summer, we've had 5 or 6 incidents where doors have been either knocked in or kicked in or hit very hard or whatever. In fact, the most recent one was an 81-year-old woman at 2 in the morning who living alone, and it scared her quite significantly. Going earlier back into the holidays, we had kids that were slashing ornaments, blow up ornaments and stuff like that. And so I believe this rule is good as it is, and I support this rule. I would like to request have the Rules Committee take a look at some of our existing rules, specifically Rule GR 2.18. I think it's titled No Noxious or Offensive Conduct Allowed. And I'd like to see that rule come into compliance with this one to have the fines be similar. I guess I might recommend it be a $500 increasing fine on multiple occurrences. But by doing that, we will protect not only the POA property, but also put something into effect in the community where if there's an incident and we can have concrete evidence, whether it's video camera or sworn statements or something like that, that we can actually, the POA could take action to find those individuals as well.
Thank you. Any other discussion about this one? All right, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 4 as amended, motion carried.
All right, so we're going to move on to 3.2, but I do have something to read before we go on to that. So again, some things that came up on Facebook, so I'll just address as well. The board is, first of all, okay, the board is not required to replace the seat that was left open when Brian Bach resigned. The board chose not to have an election for 2 reasons. Number one, the expense, which is a minimum of $27,000, and the time. The earliest we would have election results based upon the rules that govern our POA is December, which means the first meeting the new director would have been able to participate in would have been January. So that's the reason why we chose not to have an election. This board's goal is to appoint a director as quickly as possible. We also understand that if we do not agree, the CCNRs will allow us to operate as a board of 4. Given this, we changed the date of our meeting for the September meeting to September 13th. So mark your calendars for that. Our meeting will be on September 13th to ensure that at least 3 board members will be present. Due to the holidays planned long before anyone was appointed to this board, a couple members aren't going to be available the first Tuesday of September. So we're just being really cautious. And then most of you already know the procedure. So there has to be a motion and then a second before discussion. If there is not a second, there is no discussion and the motion fails. Okay. All right. So 3.2. Director Brian Brock tendered his resignation from the Board of Directors on August 2nd, 2022, creating a vacancy. The board elected to solicit applications from the members for the vetting and review to consider filling the vacancy. The governing documents allow the board the option to leave the vacancy open or appoint a new director for the remainder of the term, which is through May 2023, at a regular session board meeting. Upon receipt of all applications and in the vetting process, the board will now consider the appointment of a director. The following members submitted an application: Dan Birch, Alex Cook, Carl Gardner, Paul Hawker, who just withdrew his, Joe Kamazian, Jeannie Odell, and Kara Weinraub. Hope I pronounced that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. It is recommended that the board of directors appoint a director to fill the vacancy for the remainder 21-23 term, and that will be effective immediately. So with that, is there a
Renee,
motion?
can I make a comment? First of all, I'm very encouraged. I think it's a great a statement for our community. We had 7 people volunteer, and I want to thank all those people that did take the time to volunteer your name, say you're willing to step up and help and volunteer your time as well. So I want to recognize at least everyone and say thank you for that. The other thing too is, if I could, is I think it's important for us to recognize the audience. This is more people than we have at our board meetings. And I thank everyone in the audience for coming. I also think it's important to recognize what has been stated. There's a lot that's been stated about experience and so forth. And there's a lot of considerations that we have to go through. Given all of that, though, I would like to make a motion for Joe Kamazian.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I think, again, the point is, I think Joe's got the experience to hit the ground running. He comes in up to speed. There's not an orientation required. There's a number of excellent candidates who also can be considered, but I just think he brings the most recent experience to bring to bear. It's my recommendation.
Any discussion? So I would like to say I do appreciate everything that Joe Kamazian has done. I think experience is key. There's another candidate who has who's been in the lake probably equally as long and has a tremendous amount of experience. And while I think of it, and as I was listening to everyone, the person that kept coming to my mind was Jennifer Dane. And I think Jennifer Dane has proven as a city council woman that even if you weren't on the council prior to, or well, at any time as a council member, that she's done her role remarkably well. So while experience is important, I think she has proven, especially since she's running now unopposed, that she's done a really good job, and everyone in the community appreciates that. So I'm going to go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor of appointing Joe Kamazian as director, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed.
2 in favor, 2 opposed, motion fails.
All right, thank you. Is there another motion?
Motion for Alex Cook.
Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second that, and then discussion.
I also know Alex. I think Alex, I've worked with Alex on the FPC, also on the Recreation Committee. Alex is a fine individual, member of the community, speaks up well for the community. I think he's a good steward as well, and he does bring another voice, another new voice to the community.
Alex is a person in our community that's committed more time than the total of our board here ×3, and has experience running committees and running boards, and I think he'd be a good man for the job.
And for me, it was the information that he sent to us. I had only met Alex while attending an ACC meeting that he is a chair of, and watching him manage the meetings several times, I think, actually a couple times. But then when I read his resume that he submitted and his longevity within Canyon Lake. So for those who don't know Alex, about him, he wrote that he's lived in Canyon Lake for over 20 years. He has an amazing wife who supports him. He has 3 amazing kids that are now adults. And he created, I believe he started the campground club. He formed the campground club back in 2003. He's been on the FPC, so a lot of the projects that you see going on right now come through FPC. He's been there with them for 2 years, 8 years on the rec committee, and items that start in the rec then go to FPC, so he's been heavily involved. So I'm impressed by his resume and what he's done and how involved he's been in the community, and that's why I lean towards Alex. All right, so we're going to go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor of appointing Alex Cook as director for the POA board, say aye. Aye.
I respectfully abstain.
You abstain. I said aye.
Good.
3 in favor
I'm sorry, are 3 in favor?
and 1 abstention.
1 abstention, motion carries.
All right, Alex Cook, if you want to come on up, it's effective immediately. We have one more piece of business to attend to. And this is approval of board secretary. The secretary position on the board of directors became vacant upon the resignation of Director Brian Bach on August 2nd, 2022. The secretary position is a vital officer position of the corporation and one that will need to be filled by the board at a regular session board meeting. The association governing documents describe the secretary's duty as follows. The secretary shall keep or cause to be kept at the principal office or such other place as the board of directors may order a book of minutes of all the meetings of the directors and members or a duplicate thereof with the time and place holding, whether regular or special, and if special, how authorized, the notice therefore given, the names of those present at the directors meeting, the number of memberships present or the represented members meeting at the representatives at meeting, and the proceedings thereof. The secretary shall keep or cause to be kept in any form permitted by law at the principal office or such other place as the board of directors may order a membership register or a duplicate thereof showing the names of the members and their address, the description and number of lots, if more than one upon which such membership is based, the number and date of membership certificates issued, and the number and date of cancellations of membership certificates surrendered and cancellation. The secretary shall give or cause to be given notice of all the meetings of the members and all the board of directors required by these bylaws or by law to be given, or shall keep the seal of the association in safe custody, and shall have such other powers and perform such other duties as may be prescribed by the board of directors, the president, or these bylaws. And thank God we have staff. Side note. Whether the director vacancy is filled by the board or not, the officer position will need to be appointed to allow the association to conduct regular business operations. Director Greg Doherty has tenure on the board, and it is a logical appointment to fill the secretary vacancy. It is a recommendation that the board of directors appoint Greg Doherty as secretary effective immediately. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any, no?
5 in favor, motion carried.
All right, thank you everyone for attending. Again, a reminder, September 13th is the next board meeting. That way we'll have 4 there, but it is September 13th, so please keep that in mind.
Make a motion, we close?
Can I have a motion to close? Oh, we got it. Second? Second. All right, all in favor of closing?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.